Welcome everybody to another video here on the Peaceful Sea Snap channel. I have a deck that I'm pretty excited to go over with you today that came from a really cool place where we were having a discussion on stream about uh, like a tempo control style of deck and what would that look like and how would that play. And this is sort of what I brewed up from pretty similar shell that has been running around. Before we get into too much detail, I would just like to say, if you haven't already and you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button. Like the video, let me know down below what you think of the deck, what changes you would make, etc., etc. This really helps me out, helps me grow as a channel, and I really appreciate it. Now, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and start talking about this deck, which I have called the Tempo King. And as you can see, I had a pretty solid win rate, although over a very small sample size in Conquest. But the deck felt super powerful, and I wanted to kind of go over what makes this deck so interesting and so unique when it comes to a lot of what else is going on in the metagame. So as you can see, this is pretty similar to what a lot of people are playing with the Bounce Darkhawk shell, except I've cut the Darkhawk shell and replaced it with cards like Kitty, Angela. We got Shadow King and Shang, which a lot of those decks don't run all of those cards in tandem. And really what we're trying to go for here is we want to be as flexible as possible, where we're establishing early points, getting ahead on board, and playing in a way that is proactive in order to avoid a lot of the lockdown and Thanos decks that are running around. But also we have this backup plan of being able to, juice up a big kitty, play a bunch of cards that, mess with our opponent's game plan, but don't put a ton of stats on the board so we can throw prio and use cards like Shadow King and Shang at the end of the game to, really overwhelm and defeat our opponent. And it worked shockingly well. I really, really enjoyed this deck. It's one of my favorite decks I've played in a very long time. So let's sort of get into what the game plan looks like and how you want to play this deck when you take it to ladder. So first up, you want to convert your early tempo and points into an advantage, meaning if you have an Angela draw, a Werewolf by Night draw, that's kind of your best start. If you can go Angela into Werewolf by Night with maybe with a Kitty in hand and start bouncing the Werewolf around, play Kitty on Angela to get her up in points. I know Angela's not what she used to be, but she is still a strong card, and she can still accomplish a lot of really powerful things and give you a really dominating board presence if played early in the game. And as you do this, what this does is allows you to play from ahead. Now, people tend to think of things like Shang and Shadow King as cards you have to play when you're behind. You want to kind of throw prio and win that way, and they don't have to be. And that was sort of where I was coming from with this deck, because I wanted a deck that could both play from ahead and behind pretty well and use its tempo or its tech cards effectively in that way. And this deck accomplished that quite well. Now you do have the Hood Sentry Annihilus combo for just for the profit. Like, it's just the best thing you can be doing in Snap right now. If you haven't figured that out yet, I'll just go ahead and spoil it for you. This is the best. Like, you can slot this 3-card combo into a lot of different decks, and it's just good because when you have that draw, when you have Hood early, maybe you bounce it with Beast, and you have it as a 0 cost. You can play it on turn 5 with the Annihilus, they don't know necessarily where it's going to come from, and you have that Sentry on turn 4 into the Annihilus. That's just a very, very hard swing for your opponent to deal with. You think about it, you're getting 17 points, they're getting -10 most of the time. Now, smart players will play to the right location so that void is just going to get blown up when you play Annihilus, but that's okay. That means you still have 17 points, and they had to play. The thing that people don't really appreciate a lot with that combo is, unless your opponent's playing like Jeff or move cards that they can then move out of that lane, they're locking themselves down. So you've got that turn, they've got turn 5, they've got that lane full, and you destroy the void, and now you kind of get to decide how you're going to play into that lane to win it. And you know exactly what power is going to be there and what you need to do to defeat it. So, that's a very, very strong game plan for you, whereas you get to be proactive and you get to take the initiative, but they have to react to what you're doing. And if they can't, sometimes they just can't fill that lane. You're giving them that -10 power. It's going to be really hard for them to win that. As you can see, the last point I said here for your game plan is sometimes you want to throw prio in certain matchups to enable all your counter cards. And this is really dependent. You have to really be confident that you're not playing into an Elias deck or a lockdown deck, because those are the worst places to do this. But generally, there's certain matchups, like really high statted matchups like Bounce and stuff like that, where like the Mirror is a really good example of where you don't want to have prio, because you want to be able to say, like, have your Annihilus go off second on turn 5 if they play it and stuff like that. So understanding matchups and knowing what you're playing against is crucial. You'll see from the videos, a lot of what we played against in Conquest were like big over-the-top decks, and that's kind of your ideal matchup. Everybody's playing blob decks, right? You got Inchinot blob, you got Thanos blob. These are matchups that, other than Professor X and Thanos, you really like playing against that deck. And a lot of times you can say lose the Professor X lane, but if they're not running Goliath, then they're, a lot of them have replaced Goliath with Blob, and you just get to, throw Prio and then Shadow King or Shang the Blob, Shadow King or Shang, whichever one you didn't use on the other lane, and then suddenly you won the two lanes that they were, confident that they would be able to win one with Blob, and that it's just a very favorable matchup overall, I've found. Now, understanding which decks you want to do this against is important. Like I said, the main one that you want to be thinking about is Lockdown. If the deck has Professor X, you got to be really careful. It's okay to lose a Professor X lane with this deck, but you have to have a plan to win the other two. If you suspect them of going for a certain lane, you have to have a plan for the other two. That's the most important thing. Next up, we're going to talk about, like, briefly talk about snapping strats. Obviously, a very easy snap is when you have an early hood, like something I like to say, like you go Pig, Hood, Beast them, then you have Sentry on 4, Annihilus on 5 with the Hood to get another Demon and the gift them the Hood somewhere. That's a hand that you should snap as soon as you know you have all those combo pieces in to accomplish your goals. That's a very easy snap. Powerful counter hands. If you're playing against the deck that like a ramp deck or something that just goes tall, and you know that you can win with your Shadow Kings, with your Shangs and stuff like that, then that's another hand you should snap. Werewolf and Beast draws. This is like one of the reasons this deck is so fantastic is that you have these, powerful combos like Annihilus, Sentry, and you have, early tempo plays like Kitty, Angela, but then you also just have this Werewolf and Beast plan as well to make all of those plans better. Like I said, Beast makes your Hood plan better because they don't know where the Hood's going to be when you drop Annihilus. The Werewolf makes your tempo plans better because you can often pull the Werewolf into a lane to where you can throw Prio while still having a lot of stats in another lane for the next turn, which is really, really cool. And one of the things that makes Werewolf sort of just, one of the strongest cards in Snap right now. And, enabling this and having this set up early and knowing you're going to be able to pull this off is a really powerful, powerful tool that you have because it makes it very unpredictable for your opponent to know where everything's going to end up. And that just gives you an advantage. So these are sort of the times that I would snap with this deck and what I would do when I play it. This is how I sort of play it. Now, if you have any other questions about the deck, I would encourage you to leave them in the comments. I'm really good about responding and getting you the information you need. As far as substitutions and stuff, I didn't make a slide because let's go back and look at the deck real quick. There's not a lot of flexibility in that. Like, I would say you can play this without Spider Ham. You can play this without, that's really it. Like that's sort of if you don't have Kitty, for example, which most people have Kitty, but if you don't have Kitty, for example, you can't really play Angela. If you don't have, Black Widow and Spider Ham, then you're missing a lot of the tools that you need for the early game. I know pretty much everybody has Black Widow. If you don't have Shadow King and Shang, you're better off running the Darkhawk package because you really need the Shadow King to enable your tempo game plan at the end because we're not running Sarah or anything like that to enable any mana cheating other than the Beast. So you really need to have the Shadow King and Shang for that exact game plan to really pop off. It's hard to fill in too many other cards is basically what I'm saying. So if you don't have all the cards for this deck, there are other lists running around. Like I said, like Darkhawk package is totally fine. You substitute out Angela and Kitty, and whichever tech card you like less, then you put in the Korg, Rock Slide, and Darkhawk. You can also even run it without the Rock Slide if you just wanted to take Angela and Kitty and just put in Korg and Darkhawk. You're totally welcome to do that. I personally like having the flexibility that Angela offers, being able to get early points down and not having to invest a Darkhawk onto a lane. Not to mention blobs everywhere, right? Even if you kill the blob, that's the reason. That's sort of what sparked this conversation for me. So even if you kill the blob, your Darkhawk is still dead. It's a 0. It's not going to give you any power. So it felt like it was a better plan to just cut that package entirely. Black Widow is just a better disruption tool anyway now with the buff to her than Korg or Rock Slide because they're not guaranteed to draw those cards. Yeah, they buff your Darkhawk, but when you're not running Darkhawk, Black Widow is just better because Black Widow messes up their draws, gives them a negative power card on the board, and makes it just easier to play or just easier to disrupt your opponent. So all of that said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm going to have some gameplay video for you after this. Remember these games are in Conquest. I actually think this deck is super solid for ladder as well. Just know that, know your matchups and know when you need to be playing proactively and when you need to be maybe playing a little bit more passively in order to get that prio to your opponent so you have the edge with Shadow King and Shang at the end of the game. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching. And I'll catch you next time. Enjoy the games. Just dude, my head is not on straight right now. So I need to get my shit together. How's this thing again? Cool. They're actually running Wasp. 3, 4, 5. 5 doesn't do anything really that great for me, so we'll save it for next turn. It doesn't bounce with this, right? Pretty cool. This doesn't bounce, but I'm still gonna do it. You love Electric 6? Yeah, this is quite a jam. It might be Yellow Jacket, so it might bounce. All right, what are you gonna come? Yeah. Shocker. What are they doing?
Opponent snapped.
I'm so confused, chat. Oh, nice. Okay. I mean, even if they leech, like, this is fine.
Hell, can you understand me?
I mean, this is just guaranteed, right? You just do this. We do this. Infinite's best friend is Shang. What is this one on? Sure. I think we don't snap, because they might actually stay for this. Sure. And we get the extra cube this way. Alright, Werewolf, get back over there. Good job, buddy.
Victory.
Infinite, meet Shang.
Opponent snapped.
I mean, I like this curve. Yeah, I'm gonna stay. What you got? Ah. Mm-hmm. Surely I'll draw some of these cards for Altar of Death. Yay! Like I said. I Have a Widow's Bite. Yep. Sure. They kind of have to fill this, right? Thank you for the lurk. Appreciate you all hanging out, choosing to spend your Saturday with me, playing some snaps. Surely, chat. Surely some of this stuff will go mid and not all right. They could also Strange Academy this turn. Or I'm sorry, not on the Hawk this turn. Which makes sense. But then they also don't have anything, or they have -4 power, right? Yep. It's fine by me. Isn't this just a win? Yes.
Snap.
They don't have Annihilus. How would they Annihilus us back? This was off of Coulson. They didn't Loki. They're a Loki deck. We have no reason to believe they have Annihilus in their main deck. It would have to have been off of the thing.
Victory.
Don't reward his boomer snap. Let's be sure that I'm ahead for my Elias before I snap. No Professor X for you. That's good to know about. Feel like they run Sandman in there? Could be. Let's believe in the Beast top deck.
Oh, snap. Opponent snapped.
So they have Electro still? In spite of... That's a perfectly reasonable thing to feel, Pickles. I don't understand the problem. I don't understand the problem at all. Well, I was planning on bouncing it, but they kind of ruined that. It also, like, I don't mind putting stuff here for this very reason. All right, we're gonna Annihilus them hard. Yep. Sure. I should have played the Annihilus right. 7 mid? What?
Victory.
That was a weird play. Why would I play left at all?